Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last of this series of Brunch and Learns. Today, we're going to be talking about, it's called BYOC, Bring Your Own Cooper Book. So hopefully everyone in here has their Cooper book with them.
I do.
This is all about, good, me too. This is all about how to read and break down your Cooper book. So this is your book. How many of you guys hate your book or don't even know where to start with your book? Let's see.
I feel like hate is a strong word. No one should hate their book. It's just,
okay, well,
it's a love-hate.
There you go.
Yeah. Like you feel like you should love it, but like it's hard to read. I know. I hate it a little bit. I feel intimidated by it. Right. All these things. Okay. Yeah. We know. I want you to know that when we're like, read your book, it's not because like we started off being like, it's the most interesting book in the world, right? Like the love has grown so much that Danielle got it tattooed on her arm.
I do. It is right here. This is my Cooper 2 cover. So, or one, I don't know. The one that's the other one, not the one with the multiple baseline design on the front. So,
yeah, the second edition. All right. So we're going to be going through this today. Hopefully you guys have your book, some pens, markers. This class should not be very long at all. And I'm Liat, if you didn't know, and this is Danielle. And together we are Liel, okay? Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. We've never done that. All right, we're getting straight into it today. So like you have this big book. And tip one, I'm going to tell you right now, if people are like, I'm going to get this book and then I'm going to sell it back. Like, I don't want to ruin it. I'm going to like sell it back right after. It's an expensive book, whatever it is. I want you to like from day one, go and write your name big in there. Like that is your book that you are keeping. Okay. Like honestly, even when people come to like our Study Notes ABA, like, groups and they're like trying to sell their books, I don't even let them post it in there because I'm like, you need this book for the rest of your time as a BCBA. Like, yeah. I know they may not be testing you. Like, you may not be using a tandem schedule or something that's in your book and clinic, but you are using this. This is like our entire science as to what you're utilizing. So you definitely want to keep that somewhere close. Also, you're going to have supervisees. You need to make, if any of you guys has shitty supervision, I bet you're like, I wish my supervisor had taught me more and prepared me better for the test as well. So you could be that. So write in your book. I want everyone to get comfortable writing in your book. Highlight your book. Write notes next to things. If you need to remember something, circle it. The more you engage with this book, the more you will remember. It's behavior. Right. We understand it. It's salient, right? The more salient, the more likely you are to remember it. So like circle things, draw highlighters, put Post-its in there, whatever it is.
Stickers. I have stickers in mine. I have little Post-its. I have little flags. I have all kinds of things. Like it said, writing you're deliberately interacting with the information when you're taking notes and you're following along and you're highlighting and you're underlining and you're like, what I loved about Collective when I was reading my book again is like adding the hashtags in, right? So like, okay, we've talked about the 7 dimensions in class. Here are the hashtags I learned from class. I'm going to add those in. Okay, I'm going to underline this because it's important to me. And so deliberately interacting with your book so that you can learn to appreciate the information that it's giving you because you are a future scientist and that is your science.
Yep. And it's really amazing. Like if you just open your book, right, this like black and white, thick, heavy text, it's like, as soon as I open any page in here, this is my emptier highlight book because I actually have 2 copies of it. I actually was like so obsessed with my friend becoming a BCBA. I'm like, I'm even going to buy you the book. Anyway, she didn't follow through, so now I have 2 books. That was a nice friend thing. See, she didn't even get it. Like this entire thing. Suddenly, I'm going to pay more attention to the part that's highlighted naturally when I turn the page. So if there's important shit that you want to have in there, highlight it. Write in it. Do not be scared. You're not selling this shit back. Make it an art project. Okay? All right. Well, also, there's something cool. It feels like used. Like there's nothing better than feeling like you have like a marked,
right?
What's it called? Dog ear?
Yeah. Ugh, that's the worst. But I would say like also like for me, I'm very particular when it comes to my book with like highlighting, and I stuck with like, but that's just how I did it. You don't have to do it this way, but like I am trying to find a page. So like I have multiple colors of highlighting in mine, but I just stuck with like what worked for me. So I used 3 colors. I used purple, I used yellow, and I used green. But these pages are different than the pages of the previous book. So like, I know that we have those, what the highlighters on the website, because they don't run through. So make
The Bible
sure
highlighters.
Bible highlighter. So make sure that you find a highlighter that makes you feel good when you're using it on the pages, because the pages are like papery and they're not slick anymore. So I would say like on that first couple of pages at the beginning where they're talking about the book, and like chapter contributions, try out some different highlighters so that you can feel like what's going to make it visually appealing to you, and not be like, oh my God, it bled through to the other side of the page. That sucks.
Yeah,
So,
like don't uniball your book, okay?
okay.
All right. Next up, use active reading, period. Even if I didn't put it there. Make sure you are deliberately engaging with the information. Can you hear Kobe?
Kind of, sort of, but not really.
Okay, not really. Okay. Make sure you're deliberately engaging with the information. Okay. So, like, as you're reading something, ask yourself a question in between. I'll tell you something. Like, as a kid, I had 0 reading comprehension skills. Like, I could read something, nothing would go in. And I'm still the same, unless I like stop and ask a question along the way. Right. So, like, if I'm reading something, and by the way, we're going to show a few pages of Cooper and we're going to like demonstrate what that looks like. So I won't talk too much on it, but just make sure that you're actually engaging with it. Like, oh, what does that look like? Oh my God, is that what I saw my client doing? I wonder if that would count as a lagged schedule or whatever it is you're reading. It just, you know, makes you be a part of it, as opposed to when you're just reading a shit ton of information. I bet you're not going to take in anything. Or some of you guys are like super, and
Well,
I'm not.
Like a lot of it, like same, like I have to actively, but a lot of times what I actively ask my question is when I read something, I stop and I say, what does that mean? What did that mean? Right. And so then I can pause and reflect on the words, and then kind of go back and say, okay, wait. So this means this, and this means this. So then that means this all together. And I can break it down for myself just by asking myself, well, what are they saying here? Or look and see, is there a visual? So like, I was just in tutoring and we were talking about, one of the experimental designs. And so I was like, okay, wait, oh, here's an example right here. So we read it and we looked at the example, and I was like, okay, to see how it makes sense and putting those 2 things together. So make sure you use those tables and those visuals to help you tie that information together. And sometimes it really is just asking yourself, like, what are they saying? Like, and just pausing and reflecting on the information. Are you ready for tip number 3? Okay, we're going to go to tip number 3. Okay. So you want to make sure that you want to keep your study area free and distracted, no distraction. So you have to put your phone away.
Free of distraction, she means. Free of distraction.
Sorry. Put your phone away. Like when it comes to your Cooper book, you are not a multitasker. You cannot have the TV on and have The Bachelor playing in the background. You cannot have like your text messages going off. You cannot have your other email open. Like legitimately, you have to give it your full attention. So for me,
Cooper is like the needy boyfriend who like needs you at every second. Like you're like, dude, I have other shit to do. It's like, no, dude, when you're with me, I need your full fucking attention, because I'm deep and I have a lot of feelings to talk about. Okay.
Right.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Guys. What? I just found in my bra.
I love this.
Casey was looking. Okay. I got it. All right.
Does that not surprise me? So literally I cannot with you sometimes. So you have to give it full attention. Like, so like if you were a person that has little kids, for me, I had little kids. I got up in the morning because ain't nobody up, thank God, at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so it was quiet and I could give my full attention to this friend while I was drinking my coffee and taking my notes. So you really do have to commit to that needy boyfriend, needy girlfriend, needy pet. I know there's some pets out there that are very needy, and then they're like, look at me. Maybe it's your mom. I don't know. Sometimes my mom is really needy also. So give it your full attention. Commit to that time. All right, here we go. Tip number 4.
All right. If you're tired after work, oh, sorry.
It's fine. Go ahead. No, it's fine.
We're learning to take turns. If you're tired after, we're both DOMs. If you're tired after work, try reading in the morning. Like, these are, as a behavior analyst or in this field that you're about to be a behavior analyst, you understand basic manipulations. Like, if you know, like, straight up, you are not an after work person. Like, I know my Adderall is worn off. Okay. The only thing I know I could pay attention to in the evenings, if I am the teacher, okay, like, I know, like, wise, because I have to be so present for that I can't possibly get distracted. But if it's like about me taking anything in, I can't learn anything in the afternoons. Like, I have to do it first thing in the morning. All right. So know what works for you. Also know that, like, if your kids are the most rowdy in the morning, don't do it then. Right. And all about finding, like, a place to work. Right. Are you going to be, I say, don't sit on a couch. Don't do it in your bed. Find a table with good surface area is what I say. Even if you have to buy a foldable plastic table, that's sexy. You can have your pens laid out, your book, your task list, every single thing you need, right? Right there. Like a nice solid space. Even if you have to put that table in your closet to get that private space, whatever it is, know that's your area.
Right. No one is reading Cooper and not falling asleep on the couch. Let's be really honest. You're gonna doze off. I've been there where I try to lay in bed and I'm like, I'll just lay here and read. And I'm like, no, it's just too dense. You can't be comfy and read it. You can be comfortable, like sitting on a cushiony chair, but you can't be all snuggly up in your bed or on the couch. It's just not
Like,
gonna happen.
You could wear sweatpants, but you need to sit in a chair.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right. This one's
Talking about
huge.
this one.
Whoa.
I am doing
start.
Okay. So
no, I do bullet too. I do bullet too because I wrote that.
Okay, you can do bullet too. Okay, so I am a firm believer in reading Cooper for time because I feel like you can read for number of pages, but I read for time and it just helped me feel successful. Because you have to remember you're taking a timed test. It's not really about the 185 questions. It's really about getting it in 4 hours. So for me, I can shape up my reading by reading for amounts of time and saying, okay, I am not a super strong reader of something that's not like a sexy romance novel. So this week in my 2-hour block of reading, I'm going to break it up into 20-minute sections and then take a 2-minute break. And then the next week, I'm going to do it for 25 minutes, right? And I can increase my time of reading so that when I walk into my test, I have practiced my skill of reading. So I like to read for time because I feel like it really helps me be a strong reader when I have to read something that's not super riveting. So, or you can go in and you can pick and say, today I'm reading about antecedent interventions, and that's the chapter that I'm going to crush today. So it just, whatever works best for you.
Perfect. And what I'm going to say, what I like to do is I put in there, like, or read for a concept, right? So, like, for me, like, let's say you're on the chapter of schedules of reinforcement. There's so much in there, but I'm like, you know what? I'm about to fully read the parts that are on DRH, DRL, and DRA, potentially, right? It's like, I'm going to read for those things right now that I'm going to know something really well. Because then, like, when you try taking too much information, it's too much information, right? So really choose what it is. Also, when you read your Cooper book, also when you get into taking mock exams, I always say you're going to do the best reading when you miss something on a mock, because now you actually have to go read, and now you have an MO behind it, right? Now you have a purpose for your reading. You're reading to find something out as to why you got it wrong.
Absolutely. Make sure you're taking breaks. So be mindful of how you're taking your break when you're reading. So when you are, because for me, I feel like you're just practicing the skill of when you're taking your test. So I want to take short breaks. And for me, I want to take purposeful breaks, especially if I have other things that I need to do. So my breaks consisted of like doing the dishes or switching out the laundry or making the kids' lunches, because if I sat down and looked at my phone, I probably wasn't going to get back up and want to read. So, but if I was up and I was doing something that was kind of like meaningless and like I don't have to really think about it, I could process the information that I had just read. So that's how I took my breaks, but my breaks were really short so that I could get right back into reading, and there wasn't a really long time, and I still had that momentum of like, okay, just a break, and then keep going versus like taking like a 15-minute break. And then it's really difficult to try to transition back into reading.
So also when I was studying, I don't know, and I'm sure there's many apps like this now, there was something called, like I typed in something called Focus app, desperate times, you know, and I used to, it would be like, okay, 15 minutes studying, 5-minute break, 15. And there was like a clear SD, like when it was study time, I'd have like coffee shop noise on where it sounded like talking in the background.
Yeah.
And then the break was like water, like running water. So there was like clear signal for me. And but something I also found when I was reading, if I use like Instagram as my break, it's hard for me to get out of it and come back. Like it's like it, you know, so Danielle's activity sounds like things that are like, I don't really want to be doing laundry anyways. So I'm happy to go back.
Well, exactly. Well, and it like helped me not have so much like mom guilt because I was still staying on top of like the things I needed to take care of. And so like I could like check those things off and like be successful on both sides. This I am this person when it says like if you struggle to keep in place, use your finger or your pen to help you follow along. That's me. I'm like a finger scanner of things, and I use my pen when I read my book just to kind of help me, especially when I got to that last few minutes of studying or reading and I needed to like, my brain is tired, I've worked really hard and I'm really working to keep my focus to stay and read along because it is hard and it is exhausting and it does make your brain tired. So, and I'll even do that. Like if when I'm in tutoring and I'm reading a question somebody brought to me, I'll run my fingers across to keep me in place. So I know that you don't have a pen or a pencil or it's not a paper test, but you absolutely can practice that skill for your real test. Also, you can follow along with your finger on the screen. So you have that to help you be successful, to stay on track, especially if it's in a long question. So again, this is why for me reading is a big deal, is because you're practicing a test taking skill. It's not just about the science. It truly is having dual sides. I'm gaining knowledge and I'm practicing that skill I need to be successful when it comes to taking a 4-hour test.
Beautiful.
Tip. Oh, no more tips. Lucky y'all. I guess this is a tip.
But now this is like probably the most tips of all tips, because we're actually telling you what the hell to look for in your book. Okay. So in your book, you want to be looking for bolded words. Okay. Bolded words are things that are like your key concepts, right? Like if you turn to any page, like I turned to a random page in my book, what do I see highlighted here? I see differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior. Turn to another page. It's like behavior momentum, right? These are things like you better know the bold words at the minimum, right? And it also helps you when you're trying to study something and be like, oh, it's going to be around here because I know high P, low P has to do with behavior momentum. So it's probably located somewhere over here. Look for italicized words, right? Sometimes they'll give you, let's see the next italicized thing I see in here.
Well, the italicized words are your sneaky things that like you need to pay attention to, but they're not necessarily bolded, but they're like second important. And we have an example of that when we get there. So you want to pay attention to those italicized words because they are important also. It's just like, but they're like, hey, here's the key thing you need to know, it's bolded. And then you need to pay attention to this italicized word underneath this bolded word.
Perfect. All right, now we're getting to the headings and the subheadings. These are really important because otherwise when you're taking in all these concepts, it just seems like so much information. You're like, wait, this is in context of what, right? So you need to know, let's say you get something like a codic. I don't know. We just taught that class the other day, right? Like, you know, I was watching Martha, who helps us at the office, who's not a BCBA. And I'm like, okay, you're going to be my target. I'm going to teach you what a codic and a duplicate are, right? And I just watched her until the point that she picked up like where it even fit into what category of anything, right? So once you know, like you got to know, oh, the chapter's verbal behavior. Oh, okay, now we're getting into operants. Now it's going into the codic or the man or whatever it is. This is helping you categorize what you're learning, because then you could also learn things in different groups, right? Or in sections, which really helps your mind. So really pay attention to where these things are. Because imagine even reading about the 7 dimensions. and you see all these random words and you don't know like what, that they're all considered 7 dimensions, right? So you're like, okay, what are these words I'm just learning? So allow that organization to help you as you're studying how to organize your studies.
Okay, you want to make sure that you're reading for key details, right? So there are times where you're going to read multiple paragraphs, and maybe there's times that you're reading just one paragraph. But when you go in and you read your bolded word as part of your paragraph, you need to say, okay, what is this word? Like, what is positive reinforcement? Okay, I need to look for the keywords that they're using to describe this, right? So that I understand the concept of what they're saying. So I can write the definition, but what are the keywords within that paragraph that help explain that concept to me? So like if we're thinking about 7 dimensions, right? And I know that generality is, taking that behavior and generalizing it across setting, subjects, or behaviors. I'll probably underline setting, subjects, and behaviors, right? That's important. I need to know that. So look for those keywords that you can add in or highlight or circle that help you relate back to what that concept is that you are reading about.
Beautiful. Now, here we get to the figures. All right, those are like when you're on chapter 20 and it says 20.1, 20.2, 20.3. There's a lot of really useful shit and tables in your book, okay? Like a lot of stuff, when the text seems too much, they might have it organized in some form of a table, okay? So I always say, which I think even in the compound schedules, if I remember correctly, they show like what you should, like a visual of how you should be determining what schedules in play, right? Or let's see, turn to any chapter. I mean, they're just all over. Have fun looking for them. Like if you want to learn about the different type of task analysis assessments, okay? There's a clear example in there what a single opportunity versus multiple opportunity looks like. When you see something, I mean, hence all of STUDYNOTESABA is like drawing everything out. You're going to remember it, right? When it's stimulus equivalence, it draws out the triangles and the equivalent for you. So look at those figures, okay?
I'm gonna add in what I didn't think about adding on when I made these, but I think what's also really important and what I use a lot when I'm reading something is I go and use the subject index. So like behavior cusp. Okay, if I know that I need to read behavior cusp and maybe I don't necessarily know what chapter it is, I'm going to go to the back and I'm going to look at what pages, but I'm going to realize, okay, well, behavior cusp is talked on page 59, but also 414 and 415. So I need to make sure that I go to both of those places and read about a behavior cusp so that I can really get a good grasp, because obviously that in 414, it is important also. And so I need to make sure that I know both of those places that information is held, and not just wait until I get to verbal behavior and be like, oh, look, a behavior cusp again. So use your subject index to help you and look at what pages things are on so that you can make sure that you're like making it very easy for yourself to know, like, okay, I need to look at this page, and this page. Okay, out of these 3 pages, this one page was the most helpful. So that's really what I'm going to worry about. So make sure you use your subject index. Okay. All right. So
you guys open.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Open your books. Okay. We're not sharing this anything. We want everyone to know this is the Coopered, Huron, and Heward book. So we're not stealing anything here. You guys should all have your book with you. Okay.
So it's going to look a little different than your actual book because the keywords aren't on here, but that's okay. So if you turn to the actual page in Cooper, which is 252, you'll see your keywords. But this is what the digital, this is like
a digital one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but in your actual book, this is just to like guide us, but the writing is the same. Hold on.
So there would be, so I'm just going to write it. So if we were up here, there would be keywords up here. Keywords would go up here, right? And there's 12 of them. And then you have your task list. Okay. So I picked these pages out because I wanted to highlight several different things. This is the beginning of chapter 11, and this is talking about positive reinforcement. In my book, I have this highlighted because I need to make sure, oops, that's not a highlighter. I want to make sure that I know positive reinforcement is the most important and most widely applied principle of behavior analysis. I need to know that.
Can you zoom in a little? Sorry, it's like so.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. So And I have read all of my other Cooper book, and I have read most of this Cooper book at this point since it's came out because of working in tutoring and teaching class. So I want to highlight that. And so I'm going to keep reading, right? Is there anything else, or is this just the beginning? Is this the beginning? Sorry, my puppy is crying. Is this just kind of breaking it down for me? Okay, this is probably all I'm going to highlight on this page. Let me go, Leah, talk so I can put her outside.
All right. So that's all you're going to highlight on this page, but you're definitely going to read through all these different parts as we go through. So reading, and by the way, what's written in the text here on this 252 actually moves to 253 in your book. Right. And as we move to the next page, we're also going to be able to see this graph. Okay. So here's our first figure in here, right, that we're looking at. And I'm going to read through. I'll probably finish getting through positive reinforcement defined, right? Going through it. And then I'm going to say, okay, what am I looking at in this figure? Okay. It says the percentage of intervals of study behavior by a third grade student during baseline and reinforcement conditions. The arrow to the first post-check data point shows when cueing the teacher to provide attention was discontinued, right? So they're trying to show like an intervention of reinforcement. Here specifically, I wouldn't say this is the biggest takeaway on what reinforcement is. I mean, it is just showing that there's an increase of behavior. And I might ask myself, just for an example, while I'm reading this, I might be like, what design is this, right? I might look at that, and that might take me back to like my experimental designs. Anyone know what this is?
The type of
Is it a reversal design?
Reversal, yes. Good job, guys.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Also,
Go ahead.
And it's interesting the way they wrote it. It looks like an AB design to me. They're just calling the baseline like something different, because when they're reversing, they're essentially going back to no intervention, and then post check, I'd assume it's the same. No, I don't know. Anyways, I don't know the exact answer.
It's fine. Okay. So, all right. But that is
no, but it could be.
I agree with you.
That's my brain, right? Like,
right. I agree with you.
The point is that it made a conversation, right? So then it's like, then let's say you're talking to a friend and you're like, whoa, I was looking at this. Could this be an AB design? Right? And then Danielle be like, you know what? But I wouldn't assume on the test, even though you're pretty sure that a reversal is returning and post checks, whatever it is, you don't know that. And don't take anything as an assumption for the test, right? So now we've had a conversation about it. Now I've engaged with the image, and now it's more likely that I'm going to remember it. Okay. Sorry.
Well, and also, no, I think it's a good point to go back and say, okay, well, now I question, is it a reversal or is it a withdraw? So let me go back and clarify what is a reversal and what is a withdraw, and compare the information and then determine the correct answer. Okay. So on this page, what I would highlight is, right, I want to highlight positive reinforcement is defined. And then I'm going to highlight this right here, the principle of reinforcement, right? So what do I have highlighted in my book? Hold on, I don't have that highlighted. What I have highlighted in my book is when a type of behavior followed by reinforcement, right? We know this. It's a future frequency. So I'm going to highlight that in my book. But what I also have, and this is legitimately how I highlight in my book.
Can I guess what you're going to do? Can I guess?
What?
You're going to draw it out, what it says, because it's like a lot of words. Am I right?
Well,
were you about to do like...
No, I'm going to change the color because I need to separate out the information in this paragraph, right? So I know that positive reinforcement is this, but then I also feel like what's really important is understanding there's 3 qualifications regarding under which a reinforcement will occur, right? So I'm going to highlight this because this information is different. And this is why I always cap my highlighter. If I read something and I'm like, oh, that's important, I'll put the cap on it and then keep reading and being like, okay, I'm either going to change the color or I'm going to keep highlighting in that color. And so I would also probably go back and do 1, 2, 3. And in my book, I also have, and I always use red is only for, I would write this, because I need to know these 3 qualifications when it comes to reinforcement when I'm looking at my book. And I need to pay attention that if I go back and review this in my book, it needs to stand out to me.
Can I add what I would would draw out that yellow that you highlighted, right? So I put like, I would say when the type of behavior right? So the behavior, right? Or they're using the R for the response, whatever it is followed by reinforcement. So then I put the SR after it, positive reinforcement. But I would do like a line or something, a dash to show the contingency, right? Oh yeah, okay, good. Thank you. All right, and then we know the antecedent is before that.
Oh, you want me to draw that too?
You're basically translating this text, because like if you just read, when a type of behavior is followed by reinforcement, there will be an increased feature frequency of that type of behavior. Okay, so like I'd be like, what? Now I drew it out. Now I can visually see it. Also, I would probably write a hashtag on the side, being like, increase feature frequency, right? Like that's key.
Okay, right. And you're also, while you're doing these things and you're marking in your book, you're writing in your notes, right? I may not write all of this information, but I could write and say, okay, 3 qualifications for reinforcement, boop, 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 and put them in my notes, right? And that's going to all fall under my positive reinforcement notes. Okay, so here's another bolded word right here, right? So for me, we're going to probably highlight it, right? We're going to read first, right? So the stimulus is presented as a consequence, and that it is responsible for the subsequent increase in responding is called a positive reinforcer, or more simply a reinforcer, right? So, okay, I definitely want to highlight that. So I'm going to highlight this, right? And then if I wanted to, because I've already written it out, I could draw an arrow down here to remind myself that this is this part. Okay. So remember, in reading the important part, right? Here's another part we probably need to highlight because I didn't see, is right, the operational definition and defining effects of positive reinforcement. So obviously we're going to highlight that too, but I'm not going to just go with what my task list says. I also need to read, well, this paragraph says the immediacy of reinforcement. That's not on the keyword list, and that's not on my task list, but that's probably definitely something that we need to pay attention to, right? So I need to pay attention to the immediacy of reinforcement. So I may go in and I may put a star, right? And then I'm going to go back and get my highlighter and I may say, okay, the immediacy of reinforcement, okay? So the direct effect on temporal relations between the behavior and the consequence, right? So that I know, okay, I need to read this. I need to know about this as a BCBA to make me a really good BCBA. That's what you're also thinking about when you're reading. You're not reading to pass the test, right? That's the short-term goal. You're reading to be a really great BCBA. And if you don't know how the immediacy of reinforcement works, how are you going to use that as part of a prescription for an intervention for an individual to change their behavior? So you have to be thinking about it in totality of like, yes, I have to read this and study this for this test, but it's really not about that. It's the long game. So that is how you can break down your page. You can use stickers. I have stickers in mind to draw attention to like, this paragraph is important, pay attention to that. But I didn't highlight a whole page. I didn't highlight everything and say everything is important. Did I read majority of the page? Yeah. But I only highlighted what I felt was really important to me, that's going to draw my attention, that if I had read a mock question and I questioned it and I was like, I don't know if that's really latency, or I don't really know if that's IRT. Let me go back to my book. Okay, here is the important piece that I need to take away from this chapter. I don't necessarily need to know all of this extra information about a study that they did, but I need to know the clarification between latency and IRT, and here's how I'm going to clarify it, and this is why this is the right answer. So you're only highlighting those things that are really important and valuable to you, and then you're interacting with it and taking notes in your book. Is there anything else you want to add, Liat?
No, I think we just wanted to show you guys like one page, to show you what it looks like. Obviously, we're not going to read the whole book with you. If those are classes you want, you let us know. But for now, in this short time, just looking at this and realizing like, okay, and you're right, it's not fun to read on the spot, right? But once you get an idea of something, you could also use your Cooper book to look and go back for examples. That's why always in the collective, I say, some people, I'm like, if it's better for you, read the summary before class, then come to class. I'll explain it to you in like a way that you're not going to forget and like relatable that you understand. Now, when you go read your book, you already have a foundation, right? So now you're reading for further examples and the technicality of things. So really choose how you're using your book or whatever it is. But just whenever someone says like, I passed without reading the book, I'm like, right. Okay. I mean, they must just be a genius because this is literally what the entire test is on.
So and you can't cliff notes this. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like as much tutoring as I do, as many times as I've taken the test, like you can't cliff note this. You can get the basics of the information, but if you don't read in there and understand how the science is applied and understand how the science works, it's going to be really difficult to answer the questions. It also makes it really difficult for you to understand how to help people because you don't know how it works. So reading is hard and reading is a commitment, but in the long run, it is worth it. You're working on a test taking skill. You're working on understanding the science to help you be a better BCBA. And it just makes you all around understand how things work in life because you understand the application of the science across multiple different environments, work, your personal life, you know, helping somebody else, right? Your dog, whatever it is, like you know the science because you're a scientist. Not just I do ABA and work with people with disabilities, like you're a scientist, period, the end. So make sure you're reading so that you can help yourself. So, okay. All right, I stopped sharing.
Wait, no, there's a last page.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me share again. My bad. Okay. Proceed.
All right. So what else can we offer you in terms of helping you be successful? Our collectives are designed that you're literally going through every single thing in the textbook. We break it down that you're not necessarily reading page 1 to the last page of the book, right? It's like you need this section first to really understand this section and this to understand that. So that's big. If there's specific topics as you're reading and you're like, I don't want to do a full collective with everything, there's drop-ins available. If there's certain topics that you're stumped on, we have tutoring. Danielle's an amazing tutor. We only hear good things about her. If you have something bad to say, please let me know. Mock exams. Mock exams. We have lots of mock exams. We also have specialty mock exams. So if something is just not clicking in your reading, the best way to check it out is like, do I understand the concept though? And if you're like, I could read this non-equivalence chapter and I don't understand anything, I actually advise you to take our non-equivalence mock, right? Because now when you get those questions wrong, you will go read again with an MO. Now you're reading that chapter to understand why you got that part wrong. Okay? When you're just reading for leisure of like, oh, okay, non-equivalence relation, okay, yes, and then transformation of function, like the MO is not there. So if there's topics that you're like, I just can't get into it, take a mock on that. I promise you that will guide your reading. Also, the SNABA app, if you don't have it, that's a good place to talk about anything you have questions on. It's for $20 a month. There's thousands of practice questions there for fluency, and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and every Saturday at 11 a.m. One of us is on there to go over whatever questions you have. People meet, they form study groups. You need people with you on this journey, not to be alone. So just check out all those things.
Yes, absolutely.
And last but not least, check us out. All our stuff is on STUDYNOTESABA.com. You could always send us an email with any questions. Contact us at STUDYNOTESABA.com. Our Instagram, our podcast. Our podcast is a great way to be applying these difficult concepts into like interesting topics, right? When a sugar baby's talking about it or an ex-pimp, you're like, I remember it now. So we've done that for you. That's all free. Go check out our podcast wherever you listen. And let's stop this recording and I'll let you guys know what's going on tomorrow night. Thanks for coming.